Okay, so welcome back to the Northern Nerd Network. My name is Dan Schessel, and on today's Nerdcast, we have Ben Yendall from the Tales from the Hydian Way. Say hello, Ben.
Hi there.
Tonight, we don't have Chelsea. She had her computer just kind of drop out on her tonight, so sadly, we don't have the lovely voice or the lovely view, I guess. Which is better looking than I am, that's for sure. But tonight we get to talk to Ben about a Star Wars RPG and his podcast, The Tales from the Hydian Way. So, thank you, Ben, for coming on tonight. I'm so excited for tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
The other nice thing is that Star Wars: The Force Awakens comes out on DVD tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice thing. Nice thing to come home to.
Yes.
After a long day at work.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I think that is pretty much all I'm going to be doing tomorrow night. I'm like 12 seasons behind, or like 20 episodes behind everything right now. I'll just ignore all that for The Force Awakens.
If you're behind already, why not be a little bit more?
I'm not going to catch up.
Decent movie. Yeah.
I know that the Walking Dead kind of just ended here, their season, and I think I'm 3 episodes behind in that one at the moment.
Okay.
So, yeah. What's one more day?
Quite true.
All right. So, typically we like to start off every show by asking everybody how their week was. So, Ben, how was your week?
My week's been busy, but really fun. Been having, I do a lot of role playing, and I've been able to get a lot in the last few days.
Nice. I heard you have a local group now too, right?
I have a local group that meets monthly, so it's a very weird dynamic. We meet monthly, but it's going back to the college days of getting together at 2 p.m. and going until 10 o'clock at night.
Nice.
So we go for a long time, but it's once a month. So sort of taking weekly sessions and getting them all in at once. So
yeah, the one we're running right now, that's supposed to be every second week. We did a bonus round here last week, but we go from 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Whenever we need to get whatever we want to accomplish that night done.
There's a huge draw to it that you keep going until you're kind of done.
Yep. Yeah, you have a goal set in place and you kind of want to hit it, so just keep going.
And that's one of the things that it takes so long to learn is knowing how much is actually going to happen in one night session. When do you want to actually stop?
Yeah, I think the last session I thought we weren't going to make it near as far as we actually did, and we made it to midnight or something like that. So I mean, the time for me has been so hit or miss.
I've doing some online gaming, getting a bunch of people together on Skype. I've gone from since we're in Mountain, they're in Eastern, going to 10 o'clock our time, they're midnight already. If we go too much later, they're pushing 1 o'clock themselves before I ever get a chance to get really that into it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a weird dynamic to get into across time zones.
Yeah, the one bonus is the one person who does come from a different time zone in our group. And that's Chelsea. She's an hour behind us. So yeah, Vancouver time. So I mean, so she's by the time we hit 1 o'clock, she's at 12. So it's not so bad for her.
Yeah, and as long as she's able to get there at the start of it, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, she makes it. She's typically late for everything, but she's always on time, just on time for this. So that's good. All right. So, anyways, is there anything else that you've been up to?
No, mostly been doing some gaming and and catching up on a bunch of the shows that I've been putting off.
What shows are you watching right now?
Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, sort of the candy of TV at the moment, but that's kind of the level that I'm wanting at the moment.
We did watch the crossover for Supergirl. We did the Supergirl half.
Okay.
And I was just wanting to like smash the TV by the end of the episode. I did not like that at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like the whole. I don't want to spoil anything for a lot of people who may have not watched Supergirl, but there's multiple parts in there where everyone's pushing two characters together a lot, and it was just like, shut up, we don't like. Maybe one time might be okay, and then maybe it might happen by the time it hits the end of the episode. But the way it was, I just wanted to like smash something by the time it was done. But yes, I do. I've been enjoying it so far. So, other than this one last episode,
I've been enjoying it more than I have Arrow. Arrow's got such a long arc on it that at this point I'm in it because of momentum than anything else.
Well, that's the thing. Like Arrow, you're there because you've committed to that already. Like it's we've been watching it for so long. It's just like I might as well keep going.
No.
So anyways, personally for myself, I've been sort of busy. Just mainly because I've been doing this RPG now, and I've been trying to study as much as I possibly can in the last I don't know how many weeks that I've had these books. And I blame you typically for this whole thing. And your fun times that you gave out. It's like let's say a drug dealer or something like that, right? You know, the first time's free, and everything else is like $70 a buck.
Yeah, they aren't exactly cheap, but they definitely, you get your money's worth out of them so much.
Yeah, I like if you don't know what the size of the books are, like if you're watching this is the heft like of a core book.
A 500-page hardcover 8.5 by 11 book.
Mm-hmm. It is heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy enough to be an actual weapon.
I'm pretty sure you can bludgeon someone with this. Like this should be in the weapon section, this book.
Yeah, it really should be. In other role-playing games, it would be.
Typically most role-playing games are the size of the source books.
Yeah, like the D&D books run about 300 pages a pop. This one is about 2 of those stuck together, but all you ever need with this one is the core book. So it's kind of nice with that.
Yeah. Anyways, so basically that's pretty much been my whole week. It's been fun. I've been enjoying it. So we'll just move off onto our news items for tonight. Usually this is where Chelsea chimes in and she has some sort of witty like segue into how April Fool's just happened and there was funny things that happened. But Google had their April Fool's like Gmail kind of their joke. They had to like disable it like fairly early in the morning because it kind of backfired on them. Did you see this at all like beforehand or
I saw some of the backlash on it.
I thought it was ridiculous.
On the 31st, I was starting to see the backlash for it before we were even into April 1st. That
it did give you a warning saying that that's what's going to happen. Like,
but
the whole point was to drop the mic, and you couldn't respond back to if you don't know what the Google prank was. Basically, it was their Gmail account that they had a little button that said mic drop, and it was just a little, I don't know, it was a GIF of a minion dropping the mic.
Yeah, it was Minion with a crown and doing a mic drop.
Doing a mic drop. And essentially that's where whatever conversation you were doing would end. Like you couldn't respond, you couldn't reply back to the sender, basically. So if you were having a chat, that's it. That was the final message that you could do. And so people were responding back to these people and essentially not getting back to them.
Yeah. And obviously, in some cases, this could end really horribly for some people. Though this happening on April 1st, you kind of wonder how many people were just taking that joke and running with it themselves.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, I think it was a little bit extreme for people to like get so mad. But apparently, people did lose their jobs, from what I understand. But I can't understand how you would lose your job from something like that. It's a mic drop. It's a mic drop.
Well, a few of the ones that I've seen were people trying to apply to jobs. And that I can see it's like, especially in some of the job markets out there. It's not
why would you do a mic drop on a reply?
Well, it was replacing the save and archive button. And I could see people automatically thinking, I'm wanting to archive this anyway. So I can see people doing it, but it's still read what's on your screen, please.
Yeah. Trying to figure out it when you logged into Google, it explained what it was going to do. So I don't know. Use at your own risk.
That's almost the internet on April 1st.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there was so many like little jokes all day. And to me, anything that you read pretty much April 1st, it's a wash. Don't trust anything. And don't believe anything you see, except for that. Was it the digital release of?
Digital release of Force Awakens came out on April 1st.
It did actually come out on April 1st. I'm like, no, it's not. Wait a minute. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. If it wasn't that few people that I followed on Twitter were posting screen caps, I wouldn't have believed it. But there we are.
I know. It was. It was. I love April 1st because I mean the jokes that come out of it.
Some of them, especially if they put time into it, are great.
Oh yeah, like WestJet always does a great one. I always love them. They're like my number one stop on April 1st is to go and visit their website.
Between them and ThinkGeek, those are the two that I just sort of wait for, because ThinkGeek, one or two of them are so out there they're impossible. The rest of them are okay. That's gonna be cool to buy in 6 months.
Trina was so mad this year when they showed like the Star Wars thing. The Star Wars sleep machine. She was so mad that thing's not real. She's like, I want that so much. She's like, she wants to go to bed to the Enterprise D. Like that's her dream. And you ThinkGeek just ripped that away from her.
Well, take a look at the Tauntaun sleeping bag to go with the Star Wars end. That started off as a April Fool's joke. Now you can buy them.
I know they have a reputation of maybe bringing some of their jokes to life. So you never know.
And that one seems doable.
It does seem doable, and the whole like starlight on the roof thing. Yeah, that was a nice touch. I like that.
Yeah,
and it would be like if like for me, like I have a little 2-year-old in this house, right? And he still uses a sleep sheep. That thing could easily replace his sleep sheep. And I mean, even above his door, it says resistance is futile. I mean, he's a Star Trek nerd. But anyways, it does cause friction in this house. The 2-year-old being a Star Trek. He doesn't even know what Star Trek is. But yeah, anyways, Star Trek, Star Wars, and yes, we've been talking about the Force Awakens that is coming out tomorrow, and yes, there's some crazy, awesome bonus clips inside the Star Wars Force Awakens pack. Have you seen any of these?
I haven't, just because I know I'm going to be pulling the Blu-ray open tomorrow and watching them all on my screen, like on my TV. So I'm just sort of wanting to go into those fresh.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be. I'm very excited about watching this tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.
It's a nice, fun movie. It may not be overly deep, but it has a lot of fun to it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's someone at work there the other day was just like, it was a terrible movie. I'm like, what are you talking about? They don't know what they're talking about. I love it. Anyways, if you guys are watching live and you guys would like to ask questions or comment or whatever, you guys can even comment later. Please feel free to do so. And if you're live watching this, you can comment, and we will probably talk about your comment online during the talk. Oh my goodness. So anyways, Ben, let's just get into it. You are from the Tales from the Hydian Way. What is Tales from the Hydian Way?
Tales from the Hydian Way is a podcast about doing role-playing better. Role-playing is a common sort of sitting down, telling a common story, one person being the lead, a bunch of other people adding in their own part to it. The game aspect is you've got a set of rules to go with it to kind of smooth things out. And the Star Wars universe has so much breadth to it that you can tell so many different stories with it. Even just going with the 7 movies that are out, depending on which way you want to go with it. Because there are actually 10 out there, but...
yeah. Some we won't mention.
There is that wonderful holiday special.
What? There was? No, I don't remember that one.
I try not to remember that one, but I get flashbacks.
It's like one of those war flashbacks. Yeah, it's like every so often you wake up in the cold sweats.
Almost, yes. But just going with the 7 different movies, you've got 3 different time periods which have so much that is shown but not gone into at all. There's so many different corners where you can tell amazing stories. Mm-hmm. And with these stories, it's trying to tell them in a way that's engaging, so that you've got a way of bringing everyone at the table more fully into it. So it isn't just one person talking, it's like 5 people, each contributing to it.
Now, I've now officially listened to every episode, and except for the last one you've just put up, which I think 80% of the way through that one. So I've listened to them, and obviously I just love them because they're so helpful in so many different ways, especially when you are trying to do your own kind of campaign and stuff like that. But when you do these episodes, what do you look for to do mostly? What do you want to accomplish in each one?
In each one, my co-host and I'm currently doing it with 2 different co-hosts, and what we're trying to do is find a place where one of us is weak on, that we're asking a bunch of questions on, or have something that's kind of soft in our heads, and try and explore it with the other 2, just sort of as a sounding board. In some cases, a recent one that we did was talk about how to use a villain throughout your entire campaign, how to start one, and then have that villain's effect play out over a huge amount of sessions.
Yes, I remember that one. That was it was a pretty, that one's sort of the one that sort of shaping what we're doing at the moment on our campaign. Anyways, but what was I thinking of? Going back to one of my personal favorite episodes that you guys did was, and going back to your whole sounding board thing. That was when you guys started talking about I think one of the guys was he was sort of stuck on his campaign because they did something like his players did something that he was not expecting at all. They ended up on a planet that some backwater planet or something like that, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And you guys spent the whole time basically just sort of talking back and forth about what ideas you guys can come up with to kind of get him out of that situation and try to move the story forward.
Well, and that's the fun that I have doing the podcast, because it's working through my own blocks as a GM and as a storyteller. Like the one that you're talking about, I think we touched on everything from Back to the Future 3, where they go back in time to the Old West, to a bunch of these other Westerns that were coming up, just because it seemed to fit the theme of what he was going for. And it gave him enough of an idea to continue on and at least give his campaign a fighting chance.
Yeah, I just like the one thing that I loved about it, I think the most, is that it was something that he didn't plan. It was something that he wanted it so that he had a base somewhere that they could keep coming back to every week. But somehow, I think they set the town on fire somehow.
They were trying to get in. There was an Imperial garrison there. An Inquisitor found them because of really bad rolls that they did, and it then led to them stealing a very under-repaired ship and them crashing on a planet. That was really, like, it was an old subsistence mining planet that was really polluted. So that's one of the fun and weird parts of being a game master, is that you're taking these 4 or 5 different really improv things, because it isn't just improv, it's improv with a random number generator tossed in. And not just pass fail. No, these ones have these really cool dice that it's pass fail, or you can
pass with threat.
Yeah, which is
with something bad that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like, you still succeed at what you're doing, but something bad is happening alongside it. Or you can fail, you can have something really bad also happen, but still something good happens from it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many different ways of doing it. It's a system that I really like. Like, with I'll lay bets a fair amount of our readers have some experience with Dungeons and Dragons, at least by reputation, where you're rolling these different dice and are trying to get a particular number or beat a particular number, almost like blackjack. And with Star Wars, with the current system, you've got dice which, yeah, you're still trying to do that, but there's so many other ways that it can go. Like, it's really hard to determine. You can have a supposedly really good dice pool and it go horribly wrong for you still. It's really fun when those happen.
Yeah, this is one of those kinds of games that pretty much anything can happen at any moment. And like, I'm just learning this now as a GM, that no matter what you try to do, sometimes it's not going to happen the way you want it to.
Yeah, like, your players in some ways are like herding cats. It can be done, but you have to have a really light touch in some cases. Like, players are people, and everyone sitting there has a different idea on what they're doing. As a game master, you're there trying to get the sort of average, but also the general direction down of which way we're going. So the instigator of everything.
So when you're playing the game, do you prefer to be the GM, or do you prefer to be just a regular player and just kind of like turn yourself off?
I so rarely get a chance to play. I'm so used to being a GM now. I'm always looking at, how can I do this as a GM? Like, I do love the chances where I get to play, but I'm so used to being a GM now that that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, see, I've only played the one time I was with you, and then I just like did the GM. I'm like, I could learn this; it'll be fine.
Well, thankfully with this system, it has an amazingly good beginner game set.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, like, there's 3 different lines, whether you're wanting the smuggler type, sort of Firefly-esque, the Jedi type, or the military type. There's 3 different games. All 3 of them have really good learning experiences, and it gets you into how to GM and how to do the player.
Yeah, so we did run the beginner game for the Edge of Empire one, and then now we're kind of breaking off from that campaign into a much larger campaign where they did end up creating their own characters, but we split it off in between 2 books. We did the Edge and the Force of Destiny, because why not make it that much more difficult on me?
Well,
I'm a sucker for punishment, is what it is. I think it is.
The nice part about this is that the 3 different lines are fully integrated. They're balanced against each other. Yeah, like, you don't have to worry about. This is a great part about it. I've been feeling is that I don't have to worry about a Force user or a Jedi being overpowered for the quick draw smuggler that is going to be taking his blasters out. Yes, the Force users get to do some stuff that are really cool and very Jedi-like, but the smuggler's going to be able to do cool Han Solo stuff as well.
Yeah, and that's the really nice thing about the campaigns and the kind of the way they're set up, or the book, sorry, is because they do give that like very really flavor. Like, it gives them a really cool like
yes.
Like when you play the Edge of Empire, you really feel like you're a smuggler and you're a bounty hunter or whatever, and it doesn't feel like with a Jedi sitting right beside you that they're way overpowered. At the moment, they don't have lightsabers, so they got to work for that kind of stuff. But I mean, the one guy that we do have. I'm not worried about him being overpowered anyways, because he can't roll dice worth nothing.
Well, and that's the other fun part is you eventually see some people who just have streaks of horrible luck, and that's just the way dice go.
Yeah, I mean, I could literally give him all the advantage and all the perfect dice that he could possibly get, and he would still somehow manage to fail the roll with the despair. So. Yeah. So yeah, but for whatever reason, because I mean, I played with you, and I remember rolling horribly the whole day. But as soon as I became a GM, I can roll nothing but great stuff for whatever my characters are. I can have like 3 greens, and they would all be like the double like successors with major advantage or something. It's ridiculous. I don't know how that happened, but my players are getting really mad at me because I can't. Well, I hit them every time.
The nice part about the dice system with this is that while the GM screen's there and it's really, really handy, it's not something that's really needed. So they can get mad at the dice as opposed to you for your rolls.
That's
like,
the thing.
You can show them. It's like showing them in front of them. Oh, you got this roll. Wow. Aren't you lucky?
I like I said, I'll do the rolls out in the open, right? So that they can see what I'm doing. I make no qualms about that. So yeah, it is what it is. I can't help it. I can't help it if I'm rolling amazing rolls and they're just rolling rolls that cause a lot of trouble for themselves. It's not my fault.
Have you had anyone accidentally mess up with a thermal detonator yet? Where they've tried to pull the whole
thermal detonator yet? That would be so dangerous in this group.
Giving your players explosive, especially a thermal detonator, just leads to so much fun because they have the habit of using them and not using them well. Which
using them at the most inappropriate times.
Yeah, so you do have to kind of coach yourself for bad things are going to happen as soon as you give this to them, but they're going to use it quickly. Because, hey, look, it's a shiny new toy.
Exactly. Let's see what this thing can do.
They can,
next thing
they
you
can
know
try
that they
and
don't have a
imitate.
ship anymore for some reason.
They don't have a ship, or they try and pull the Leia in Return of the Jedi, showing off the thermal detonator, trying to intimidate Jabba. It may work, or there could be a new hole in the throne room. It's kind of an either-or thing at the moment.
Yeah, you never know how those kinds of situations will end up. That's pretty awesome. So anyways, yeah, like I said, so I want to get back to
Okay.
more the Hydian Way here. What is one of the I guess your favorite parts about doing the podcast for you?
Well, my favorite part about doing the podcast comes out of the reason why I'm doing the podcast. The reason why I am and the reason why my co-hosts are doing it is so that we can learn how to tell the stories better and guide the stories better. Because getting everyone together and having a nice jaw session is great, but being able to kind of lead the story in a particular direction, have it so that it becomes a bit more epic, a bit more memorable. Like, the randomness is great, but having it so that you know this is the time to give your players a thermal detonator so that they can go off and do crazy things. And you've got an idea of what they're going to be able to do with it. Having that skill and being able to give that skill out to others, that's sort of the big thing of why we're doing it, why I'm doing it. So that I can learn a bit better, bounce the ideas off of someone else, but also give other people ideas on how to do it for themselves.
Now you've had like multiple hosts on the show as well. Tell me about the little bit of a transition. You have now 2 co-hosts on your show as well, right?
Yes,
now,
I do. I have.
Yep.
I started off with one back in. Our first episode was August 2014 now. And we did a review of the Force and Destiny beginner or beta book. They released it, put it out for public testing so that many people could take a run at it, and then release it almost a year later. Well, we were taking a look at it, trying to integrate it. We've been talking a bit beforehand, and things just kind of sprung out of there. We kept on going. We went on for about a year, and eventually my co-host, Cam, he was wanting to move on to different things, and he was trying to come to an end of the things he thought he could bring to the show. So he gave me a bit of notice. I was able to find Joshua and David. They had been fans of the show. I'd been playing with them with one of my online groups and thought that they'd be perfect because Josh was a very thoughtful person, but in a very different way to my own. And David is this spontaneous person who I really like. His energy and the thoughts that he brings to things is just wonderful. So I felt really lucky to get both of them to say yes to it.
Yeah, and I've been absolutely enjoying the episodes as of late. That's for sure. And yeah, like you said, like they've been at least a good source of entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
So anyways, what, like, out of all the stuff that you've done, I mean, you've done quite a bit. And like I said, you had your one of your favorite episodes that you said you did with them. But why why continue to do it? Like, do you still feel like you still have lots more to give, or you just?
The more, in some ways, it really feels like a small discussion group. It's two guys that I get together with, and we're able to talk about Star Wars and Star Wars role-playing. Sometimes before we get to talking about the actual topic for the night, we'll start talking about, well, this is what happened on Rebels, or this is what happened in some other thing. And like, we just had an episode recently start with one of the hosts talking about raccoons on an island off of BC. And then like this study of two different raccoon populations. And from there, we get a full episode out of it because we start treating players like raccoons. And it was an odd place to start, but it turned into a really good episode. And as we talk on Twitter, I think we have enough ideas, if we didn't come up with any more, to have episodes out until July.
Oh yeah, there's always something to talk about. That's what I'm finding.
Yeah, like it's anything that we feel not so secure about on our own. Sometimes we'll come up with episodes such as, well, there was one that Cam and I did about Starship combat because it's a little different than normal combat. So we actually did 2 episodes on this in our longer format. So we actually took time to run through the rules and try and explain this to people. That's the closest we've got to actually teaching, as opposed to just providing ideas and trying to give insights onto telling new and interesting stories.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was going to say that I would suggest is I need to learn a bit more about ship combat.
Well,
that's the worst part
while.
about this whole book. Like I'm having the hardest time wrapping my mind around that.
It's been a while. If anything, it's the one that I'm seriously considering doing a video about, because it's just different enough from normal ground combat that it's the same but different, and it's that but different that confuses people, that puts people on edge. So that's one of the things that, since it does put people on edge, it still puts people on edge. Well, we can come back to it as more people ask about it. Like, and that's one of the things that I do keep on coming, or do find with running the show for so long. Like, yeah, it's been a year and a half, but some of these topics are essentially evergreen, that if we talked about them a year ago or even 6 months ago, well, we've learned a lot in 6 months. What can we apply to them now? Like,
exactly. So anyways, I sort of want to know a little bit more about maybe some of your more experiences playing the game or being the GM. What are some of your biggest or best memories that you've had playing? Like some of the stories that you've kind of come up with.
One of them, my first campaign, it was roughly around the time I was starting off with Tales, was the campaign I was running was essentially Sink the Bismarck. The Empire in a particular area was building this super ship, the biggest one in Age of Rebellion. So something that would be rightfully scary. And they had to find it and destroy it or take it over before it was finished.
Mm-hmm.
And it was completely up to them whether they could blow it up or take it over. They decided to be cautious and blow it up for some reason instead of flying around with like 20 of them on this 9-kilometer long ship.
So did they end up managing to get it blown up?
They did. The classic way of overloading the engine so that it self-destructed. But yeah, they've snuck their way on board, fought through some stormtroopers, had some demolitions fun in the engine room, and then had a nice running fight to get to the last escape pod. And that was a suitably epic thing for ending a bit of a long campaign.
How long did that campaign last for?
That one lasted about 6 months, I'm wanting to say. Maybe a bit more.
Was it an every week thing? Or
it was an every other week thing. We were going for about 2.5 to 3.5 hours a night.
Yeah, I think the campaign I'm on right now, I really don't know. I sort of have an idea of what's going to happen in the next little while. I obviously don't want to say anything to anybody because people who probably are listening to this shouldn't be listening to this. But yeah, anyways, so far we've had a lot of fun just with our little campaign, and that's the thing that I've been really enjoying is that the stories that you guys that you get to come up with are just so much fun.
Well, the stories of the moment and the stories of people playing out their characters are so wonderful. There's one gentleman that I play with. The guy's name is Brent Brown, a gentleman out of Idaho, and he plays a Wookiee. It's a Wookiee medic that it's a soldier that's sort of a frontline responder that deals also in combat enhancing drugs. It's kind of a sub-theme that goes throughout all of Star Wars. You've got drugs that get you through pain and kind of heal up you a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the medic and another specialization allow you to apply these in such a way to boost people's abilities so that they can fly better, they can shoot better, they can punch better, they can think better. And this guy, he had just seen Guardians of the Galaxy and started modeling this Wookiee after Star-Lord. So he's got his Walkman, he's got a trench coat, and he's just sort of dancing through the ship, injecting these people in the neck with these different drugs. They're in the middle of this combat. He can punch people, but he's not really good at shooting things. So when a hole gets ripped in the side of the ship, he's there to wrestle a patch into place. But until that happens, he doesn't really feel like he's that useful. So he's going around injecting these people. They're all doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they're injected. Like,
and then they can do it better.
Exactly. Like, it's one of those things that it's those sorts of stories, the kind of oddball, smaller stuff that pop up. And those are the things that you would never really come up with if you're just sort of writing your own story. Or you might come up with one or two. But having them come up every single session. Like, one of the things that as a GM, there's a table that you roll on for the different critical injuries that you can have. As a GM, I have a knack for getting right in the one range which is called maimed, which means the players lose one of their limbs that isn't their head. And I have a knack for this. I
have a knack for rolling a 98 every time. I don't.
I have been able, in every campaign I have run so far, or actually participated in, someone has ended up maimed. Sometimes I'm the doctor and able to heal them, or sometimes I'm the GM and able to sort of relish in this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I've been rolling, like I said, these amazing rolls. Part of that is that when I do roll for a crit, it seems to be pretty high, like in the 94 or 95 region, somewhere around there. Apparently the players don't like it when they get their arm blasted off or something like that.
Well, yeah, and as you're rolling higher, it gets worse and worse.
Mm-hmm. And then you add another 10 to that.
Yeah, for every time that you get hit and criticaled again. After a while, like, personally, I'll do these criticals at the beginning of combat so that they have to deal with them, and then I'll start trying to get creative of, okay, well, everyone here is dancing around with a critical hit on them. and they're bleeding, or they've got an arm crippled until the end of combat, or they are set back from whatever they're doing. There's all these different things. Okay, well, I'm starting to feel bad for them. How can I start doing bad things to them, but not in such a direct, horrible fashion? Plus, if you get high enough for crits with your roll, since you're adding 10 every time, that's the only way that you can instantly kill a character.
Mm-hmm.
They've been hit so many times that they just sort of fall over. It's sort of like in a couple different movies where the hero has finally been shot up with a machine gun and is lying there bleeding out, as opposed to just being dead.
That sounds horrible. Don't mean to your players. That's terrible.
Yeah, eventually I stopped having it so that they're getting beat up on and just everything around them. So the flammable containers that they're hiding behind will get exploded and they get thrown away. Things like that. Yeah. And trying to... That's one of the things that
they're hiding behind explosives.
Not really. They shouldn't have scared the stormtroopers away from hiding behind those same explosives.
It's like, I did put them there for the other people. However, when you start charging at them, they're going to back up.
Yes. And it's that emergent storytelling that's the thing that I love about role-playing, being able to do this. Like, it's stuff that I would never come up with on my own. Like, even for my shorter sessions, my Thursday night games, I plan for the first part. I kind of plan for the entire 3-hour block. But I know that somewhere in that 3 hours, something is going so sideways, I will have no idea on how to deal with it in the moment. I'll have to take a minute and say, oh, that's what happened.
Yeah, one of my... during our one game that we had, one of our guys, they rolled the first Z so that they could kind of see what was going to happen in the future. Mm-hmm. And I told them, like, you're going to see some TIE fighters, like just flashes of TIE fighters and blasters, like just going off. And that's all you see. And so he's just like, okay, that's going to happen. We're going to get ready for when we hit this place to get ready for a fight. And of course, when they jumped into where they were going, there was TIE fighters there. There was I put a Star Destroyer way off in the distance so that they didn't have to, like, the Star Destroyer didn't have to, like, attack them at all. They could just take these two little TIE fighters probably out, no problem, and get away.
Mm-hmm.
No, the comms come on, and the lady on the like, who's the Imperial officer from the Star Destroyer, she's like, divert your course to the Star Destroyer. We have some smugglers in the area, and we want you to be checked out. And so they the one guy who's the charmer, he tried to roll. He did a terrible roll, just an awful. So she got really mad at him. And then I'm like, so I come back across the lady comes back across the radio, and she tells them that they got to do this now, or there's no more chances, basically. And so they're freaking out. They don't, for some reason, I don't know why, they don't want to get into a conflict at all. And I'm like trying to push them, like, this is gonna happen. You guys are gonna fight. Like, the TIE fighters were sort of closing in at this moment, and so they're like, they panicked and they just turned towards the Star Destroyer. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't go to the Star Destroyer. That's terrible. That's a terrible idea.
There are 4 other directions, but of course they're going to turn to the Star Destroyer.
Why would you go that way? No, they didn't want to fight these 2 little TIE fighters. They could easily take out. No, they went to the Star Destroyer, and
yes,
they for some reason they went to the Star Destroyer. The lady comes out, like the Imperial officer comes out with the garrison of stormtroopers. So 12 stormtroopers come out, all heavily armed, guns pointed, and they come out of the ship, hands up, whatever. And the charmer, he's like, I'm going to try this one more time, because the last time ended up pissing her off. For some reason, he like rolls this incredible roll with the triumphs and like 2 triumphs in there, and like I'm like, really? You rolled this now? I'm like, so anyways, I made it so that, you know, she didn't realize how handsomely good looking he was. And for some reason, she's now blushing. She's sort of like caught off guard, and she's just like, do you have, she's like a little bit flustered. So do you have your papers? And they hand them, they're like, we don't have papers. So they flip a destiny point. So that's one of the mechanics in the game, is those destiny points. So they flip the destiny point to get the papers that they needed. They're like, yeah, we have the papers. They're here. And they give her the papers, and she's like, these are so well documented, everything else. She ends up just letting them go. And I'm like, I can't believe the way the turn of events that happened to like let them just leave. Because I was like,
well, 2 triumphs is a huge thing. So
well, it is.
like that's all. That'd be like in D&D a double critical. So yeah,
exactly. I mean, the ridiculousness of the whole situation, and they have the illegal goods on the ship, which I'm sure they could have made. They were going to go and look in the ship, but for some reason they ended up talking their way out of that, and they were sent on their way. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I'm like, why wouldn't you just fight the TIE fighters? Like who wants to like put up with the Imperial BS? Apparently these guys.
Well, and some of the ways that players go, it at the moment it makes perfect sense to them. As a GM, you've got no idea what's going on with them. It's like, okay, I'll go with this because that's the way you're wanting to go. But it's like sometimes you just got to follow the players and follow their train of thought until you start getting ahead of them.
Well, the main thing was I had nothing planned for that Star Destroyer. The person that was on the comms was just a character that I just whipped up because I needed someone to like talk to them on the radio. That was it. I didn't have like anything planned. And if it went south on that Star Destroyer, I could do nothing to stop it. And I am so glad they got out of there. But at the same time, I'm like, why would you put yourself on that ship? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
As a GM, I've found, like, for as long as I've been a GM, which is back to my days at Skona, is players will do exactly what you don't expect them to. It's like, if you give them a Star Destroyer, well, in my experience, if you give them a Star Destroyer to look at, they're going to want to take it over. They're going to get their way onto it, and they're going to try and see if there's a way for them to take it over. And as a GM, I really like that idea. So it's kind of a story that I encourage. But
so go for it.
Yeah, going to a fully staffed Star Destroyer with tens of thousands of people on it, you've got these 5 people going there and thinking they can do something with it. You can, like, what can you do?
Like, really, what are you going to do on that ship? I mean, yes, that would be an amazing thing to have happen had I had a way of that actually happening.
Yeah, especially if you were prepared. But having it just sort of happen, having it just happen as a random chance, that's always unsettling.
But yes, it turned out pretty good. And in the end, it's always fun to have those kinds of moments.
Yes, it is.
And that's kind of the nice thing about this whole game. Like you said, was it brings out those kind of moments playing it, right? And you're, like I said before, your podcast has been such a great help for me, just trying to learn this game and trying to figure out, the best way to play it. And I really wanted you on because, I mean, you're an Edmonton guy, right? So
yeah,
it's always good to have local podcasters on. So if you guys are out there listening to this edition of the Nerdcast, go and check out Ben's stuff at the Hydian Way. Where else can people find you on the web there, Ben?
So on Twitter, we're the Hydian Way. On iTunes and Google. You can find us as Tales from the Hydian Way. Now I actually have to look at Hydian.
Yeah.
I type it. I type it and say it. I normally don't spell it. And we also are part of a role-playing game website called The Med Adventurers. And yeah, my co-hosts, Joshua and David, they're both really insightful on what they bring to the table as well. And,
awesome.
Yeah.
So anyways, we don't have a whole lot more time left in today's edition, but I'm so thankful that you came on today's show, because we always want you on here. Because
thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
I like I said, like, I've been getting into this game. I need to talk to you because you're my go-to guy now. And
that's kind of one of the things I like being is I like getting the different questions about, okay, this is a situation. What are a couple ways of getting me out of it? And some of those are really fun to consider. It's like, I'd never thought of them.
Exactly. So anyways, thank you so much again for coming on the show. Next week we have, oh, my wife didn't do that. Sorry. We have, now I got to go back into, it's Andrew, hang on, from Mad Soft Games.
Cool.
Yeah. He's going to be on our show. I can't remember his full name right at the moment. That's terrible of me. But Trina was my producer, somehow missed that in the show notes. I'm going to have to talk to her. So anyways, here we go. What on earth? I don't know. So anyways, we got Madsoft coming on next week to the show. So look forward to that. And, we also there's so many events up on our calendar right now. And I want to thank Kelly from the Edmonton Nerd List. He's been absolutely just amazing for, sending us tons of events. But if you guys out there are listening to this episode of the Nerdcast, send us your events. If you have an event that's coming up, let us know, and we will definitely be putting that up on our calendar, letting people know what's going on in the city. And we just love doing that. So, do that by going to our website at northernnerd.com. You guys can find us on youtube.com/Northern Nerd Network or facebook.com/Northern Nerd or on Twitter at Northern_Network. That's pretty much it. I want to thank everybody out there for watching and or listening to this edition of the Nerdcast. And I'll see you guys on the next one. And I'm supposed to have the outro music ready for this, and I was terrible at that. There we go.